All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I am your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited for our guest today because we have none other than Bryan Clayton from GreenPal with us here today. And he's going to be talking about how to build a growth flywheel in your business. Bryan, thanks for being here today.
Damon, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
It is awesome, and I'm still jealous of the background. You there in wonderful Costa Rica today. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. I had this on my schedule for today, and I thought, okay, yeah, I'll get off the beach. I'll come in and talk to Damon, do a good interview, and so this was actually a nice break from doing nothing. You know, you can only do nothing so long. So
there you go. There you go. Well, I'm glad we could be a nice break from doing nothing. And hopefully we're going to have some fun here today. And Bryan, so we'll talk a little bit about GreenPal in a moment, but we really like to get to know who we're talking about. So if you could share your background a little bit, where are you from, how you got into what you're doing today with GreenPal, that'd be cool for us to start.
Yeah. So born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, and I have never had a job. I have always had my own little business. And I was fortunate when I was a kid to be forced into entrepreneurship by my father. He got tired of watching me play Super Mario Brothers all day. And I remember the day very clearly. He interrupted my Nintendo playing and said, "Hey, get off your butt. The neighbors need somebody to cut their grass." And I said, "Hey, I don't mow yards." And he said, "Well, you do now." And he was a military guy, so this was not a request; it was a direct order. Yeah. And we went next door, mowed the neighbor's yard, and for an hour of work, I got paid $20. And I remember it very clearly. Something happened in that moment, and something just clicked. I thought, wait, now I can just do this and make money and not have to hassle you guys for money for new clothes or soccer cleats and things like that. And I remember when I got done, I started making up flyers on our home computer and passing them around the neighborhood, and got 10 customers that first summer. And I just kept doing that through high school, kept doing it through college. And over a 15-year period of time, built that into an actual business, eventually growing the company to around 150 employees. Wow. And then it was acquired. That business was acquired by a national company that operates several of them. And so I was very fortunate to have a good father to force me to do something I didn't want to do, but that was good for me. And then and also be in a growing community like Nashville, where if you're running a small business, you could just trip over new business every day because new stuff was built, new people were moving there. There was prosperity there. So a lot of hard work, but a lot of luck, and built and sold that company. And then I took some time off, did a bunch of traveling, and got really discontent that I didn't have a mission. I didn't have a project. I didn't have a reason that it was important for me to get out of bed early in the morning. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to start another company. What should I start? And at the time, Uber was just getting rolling. Uber was just started in a couple of cities in the United States. And I'll never forget, I took an Uber ride for the first time in San Francisco. And this was 2012, 2013. And I thought that was magical, that you could just push a button and something happened in the real world. And I thought, somebody's going to build this for lawn mowing. It might as well be me. And so it was naivete as an asset, but recruited 2 co-founders, and we started working on GreenPal. Here we are 10 years later. It's a 10-year overnight success.
Yeah. So who would have ever thought that the Uber ride would give you the idea and go into this? That's
totally. Life cool. is strange sometimes, with little moments that could change the way your whole life takes shape with just one little thing. And I remember it very specifically because up until then, things you would do on your phone or on a website only happened in the digital sense. That was the first time where you would push a button and something real in the real world happened. And
yes,
that was like an aha moment for me. And that gave me the confidence that could exist for this little industry that I knew, the lawn mowing landscaping business. I knew somebody was going to build it, and I just decided I wanted to be the person.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. It's really, that Uber really was the beginning of, like like you said, press, they come to you. They're
Right.
using your location. You're using other resources around you, depending on who's closest. There were so many things that were coming together just in that
Right.
application.
Yeah, it was for the first time everybody had a supercomputer in their pocket. And so we knew where you were, who you were, your payment method, and then
Yeah.
and on the other side you could match all those things up. So for the first time that was possible. And that's what kind of gave me the inspiration of, okay, because I knew how hard it was to run a lawn mowing business, and I knew what a pain in the butt it was for people to get matched up with lawn mowing services, because I
Yeah.
saw this problem every day. And I thought, okay, technology can make this smoother for both sides of this transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. So you let's talk about the switch, right? Because you start out mowing lawns, and you mow lawns until you sell this company, and you decide to build a software company. Now, there have to be some good learnings in this.
It was like I said, it was naivete as an asset. So I didn't know what I didn't know, and I was very naive to think I could do it, because if I had known everything that was going to be involved, I would have never tried it. And so that was like, sometimes that can be like a good thing when you don't really know the challenges, and you're ignorant of what lies ahead. And so that's how it was for me. Because I just built, sold, and I scaled that company to around $10 million in revenue, and then sold it. So here I am, my chest is puffed up. I think I know everything there is to know about small business, and I thought, okay, this will be easy because it'll be software. I won't have to deal with 150 workers. I won't have to deal with 90 trucks that are breaking down all the time, and insatiable customers and all these things. I thought this will actually be easier because we'll just build the software and it'll just work. And I learned a lot of hard lessons. So I thought we could, my two co-founders and I thought we could just outsource the tech, and then we would do the sales, and then we would be off and going. So we tried to do that. We thought, okay, this is what we think the app should look like. And we hired a development shop to build it. And it took them 9 months and like $200,000. And they delivered this thing that was a total piece of crap. It was hard to use. It was unintuitive. It barely worked. And I learned, to be in the tech business, you have to learn how to execute tech. You can't outsource it. And I'm from Nashville, and it's kind of like saying, I have an idea for a song, I just need a musician to compose it.
Yeah.
Either you're a musician or you're not. And so either you're in the tech business or you're not. And so that was a really hard lesson. It cost us a year, a lot of our seed capital that we had kind of collected. And so we went back to the drawing board and taught ourselves how to build software. And that took like another year of just going to YouTube University, online classes. My co-founder went to a boot camp that was like 8 hours a day for 6 months. And we slowly picked up the skills we needed to rebuild the whole platform from scratch ourselves while we learned. But at least at that time, we could make changes to it and iterate on top of it and improve upon what we had. And so that was like the first like stumbling block and hard, painful learning. And then the next thing was, I thought, whoa, this is hard. I'm glad we got that out of the way. And I thought, I'm glad the hard part is done. And then I realized, actually, that was the easy part. All of that was easy. And I learned a hard, painful lesson. If you build it, they will not come. And I learned the hard lesson that pretty much every founder learns, particularly if you're trying to start a tech product, is that the actual distribution and sales and connecting what it is you have built with people that need it, that want it, is 10 times harder than just building the damn thing in the first place.
Yeah.
And going back to like I'm not a musician, but growing up in Nashville, Music City, there's all these strange parallels between the music business and entrepreneurship. A friend of mine that was a recording artist told me, he said, I moved here to Nashville, and I had to learn how to. I thought I was a good guitar player, and I realized I need to sharpen up those skills. And then I realized I got to learn how to sing and play the guitar at the same time. Then I got to be a good performer, and I got to be a songwriter. And so I did all of those things, and then I realized that was the easy part. The hardest part is getting 10 people to show up at a show. And that's the life of a tech founder is no different.
Yeah.
The building of the software, the design of the software, the customer research, the security of it, all of these things that go into making a piece of software is the easy part. It's really table stakes. The hard part is, okay, how do you get like a distribution engine at the core of it to where it'll grow itself? And that took years. It took years of just grinding our way through it and trial and error and learning how to market this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you make a great point, because software applications have developed to the point now that it has to be a good application just to get in the game.
That's right. That's table stakes.
Yeah.
Used to be maybe 10 or 15 years ago, software was so terrible that if you had like a premium, really polished product that worked flawlessly, maybe that was a competitive advantage. But these days, people expect that. Uber, Amazon, Instagram, Facebook, these massive platforms of incredibly complex technology work like running water.
Yeah.
And so the user, the customer, the consumer is indoctrinated for perfection. They expect perfection. And so a well-executed, well-built piece of software is just like a ticket, an entry into the game. I mean,
yeah,
it doesn't differentiate your company.
Yeah. I like how you said that. They expect perfection, like running water.
That's right. That's right. And we have Uber, we have Jeff Bezos to thank, Uber, we have them to thank.
Yeah.
And even, services like Instacart and DoorDash,
Yes.
these services work every time. I've
Yeah.
used those services almost once a week, and I don't think it's ever not worked. So
Yes.
we expect perfection.
Yeah. Yep. So then you moved into the really hard part, and the part we're going to talk about today a little bit more, and how you build this growth flywheel in your business. So what were some of the things starting out that you guys learned and really helped you continue getting that flywheel moving?
Yeah. The first thing is like the cold start and your first 100 customers. I think the first 100 customers, first 100 sales need to be hand-to-hand combat. I think you need to be knocking on doors, setting up a booth at the mall, passing out flyers. You need to do whatever it is, like belly to belly with the first 100 people. And then you kind of need to get in the trenches with them on how they are using your product or service, so you can then understand like how to tweak it to build something that people actually want. So then you can get to the next level, maybe 1,000 people. And then from there, you need to start thinking about, okay, how am I going to get from 1,000 to 10,000 and 10,000 to 100,000? Because you can't get there passing out flyers. And so the first thing is nail it, then scale it. So hand crank the first 100 sales. And then after that, it's like, okay, like we talked about before, not only do you have to innovate on the product, you have to innovate on the distribution. It's not good enough to just build a good product. You also have to have some kind of secret sauce on how you're spreading it. And so that's where like this fancy word of like a growth flywheel comes into play. And I remember speaking Uber, I studied every little thing about Uber I could to learn from how they were growing so quickly to apply it to my little startup. And I remember there was a talk that the founder gave where they sketched on the back of a napkin their growth flywheel. And it was, okay, we know that if we have a certain number of drivers, we get a certain number of consumers. And then we need to focus on one thing, wait time. If we get wait times to go down, that means more consumers are happier with it, which means that they refer their friends, which means more consumers come on, which means vendors can make more money, which means more vendors come on. And then the whole thing kind of reinforces itself in this flywheel effect. And so we started looking at that in our business in terms of, okay, well, well, how can we juice the cycle in our business? Okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
we kind of have a similar business in terms of lawn care providers submit pricing and consumers hire the one they want to work with, but then beyond that, it kind of breaks down, and we started noticing, okay, how do we get more consumers beyond just word of mouth, and how do we use the exhaust of what's happening in this flywheel and try to use it to get more customers? And we came up with this idea of, okay, well, when we get all of this transactional data, we know the square footage of all of these properties, we know how much it costs to service them, we know which lawn care vendors at a zip code level are reliable, which ones aren't, and we know the average price per square foot. We know all of this stuff about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
We can take that and we can package that into a unique piece of content that when somebody's looking for a lawn mowing service, they stumble across our content around, okay, here are the top 5 lawn care services in Seattle, and here's their average pricing per square foot. Here's how often they show up on time. And guess what? You can also hire them right here.
Yeah.
And so that flywheel effect of, okay, these things are happening. We're getting this data. We can then recapture that data, package it up in a nice, easy to digest piece of content for new consumers to discover what GreenPal is, was the flywheel effect that we stumbled upon. But this stuff doesn't have to be complicated. Hey, if you're a plumber and you want more bathroom like remodels or something, you just need to make it part of your workflow that you document every step of the way, and you send it off to a VA who packages it up into nice TikTok videos and puts it out for you. And that's just part of what your business does.
Mm-hmm.
Your business is not only in the business of doing plumbing work, but it's also in the content creation business. It's in the short video business. And so you have to bake into the DNA, into the actual workflows of the business, these sorts of things, so the business can grow itself, and there's a growth flywheel in the center of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hit one of the things that we talk about a lot of the businesses that I'm helping, and that's content creation, because it is so important anymore. If nothing else, the fact that, what is it? It's well over half of the buyers now are millennials or close to it. And they want to be able to look you up on a phone. They want to be able to see what you are, who you are, what you're doing, and really not just, hey, I'm going to be able to come there and mow your lawn, but who's going to mow your lawn? How do they treat the world? How do they look at their life? All these things. How are the employees talking in the whole scheme of things? And that content becomes so important to not just say whether I could be the person that could mow the yard. Is the person that aligns with me on things that I think are important as well.
Exactly. And something you just said, I was thinking about it the other day. So I'm 45. So I'm Generation X, almost millennial, somewhere in the middle. And and for the last 20 years, millennial was one of those kind of like funny things you would call somebody. You would call like because every generation looks on the previous generation and kind of cracks jokes on them. And for my whole life, we kind of, if we called somebody a snowflake or a millennial, that was kind of the same thing. And the millennial in my head always kind of occupied this space of like the young college grad, not my customer. Well, time flies, and 10 years go by like that. Millennials are the customers now.
Yes, they are.
And so that's who you're marketing to. And it's like you just said, they buy in very different ways than we were accustomed to 20 years ago. And you have to make part of what your business does. Your business is not only in the plumbing, HVAC, home construction, lawn care. You're in the content creation business. You have to make it part of the natural course of actions of what your business does in order to build any kind of lasting flywheel.
Yeah, you certainly do. So what are the ways that you guys like to do it at GreenPal? What are some of the ways that you're, creating content, connecting your business with the people that are mowing the lawns, people that are actually getting their lawns mowed?
So the first way we like to do it is just with the raw data. So the transactions that are happening, where they're happening, how much they cost, are they happening on time, and then tying that to profiles for individual lawn care services. That happens automatically, and we're able to kind of do that in a programmatic way, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But another way we like to manually do it is we literally we pick out the best vendors in every market and we interview them, and we take pictures of their properties, and we talk about what's different about their business, and we create pieces of content and videos about them. And that's kind of like there's no easy way to scale that, but that's some of the highest ROI time we spend. So I think you have to look for ways to kind of automate it, but also ways to hand crank it.
Yes. And those are the interview with your best vendors in the area have to be great relation building opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. And particularly in the early days, that was instrumental, where they would tell us, because we were on a first name basis with them, they would tell us, hey, I really wish this piece of software would look like this, or I wish we had this feature, or this thing's annoying me. And it's like that.
Yeah.
Feedback is just free R&D. You have to listen to that feedback, especially when you're in a multi-sided marketplace like we are. We really have two customers. We have lawn care services and homeowners and consumers. And so we have to listen to both of them, strike the balance between what both of them want. And sometimes we err on one side at the expense of the other, and we're always correcting that. But you don't know unless you have that relationship with your key users, your key customers. So there's that open line of communication.
Yeah, really good. So in growing your SaaS business, I mean, I talk to SaaS people all the time. First thing they always think, there's no way you can grow it unless you get investors, and we pump all this money into marketing and all this other thing. And I think I really admire that you guys have invested money back into the company and grown it organically that way. What are some of the things that you were thought about doing, but we're glad you didn't on that way up?
Yeah, when we first got started, we subscribed to the tech press way of thinking that, okay, you go and you raise an angel round of funding, and then you raise a series A, B, C, and so on. And that's kind of what you had to do. And so that's what we thought we needed to do. And it was the first 6 months. My co-founders and I are trying to learn how to code. We're working 14 hours a day. And I thought, okay, I'm going to try to go pitch investors on what we're doing. And I remember going in on these meetings and pitching these folks, and like just trying to get a $25,000 check or a $50,000 check. And I thought, this is a waste of time. I need to focus on building the product, and where we can make $50,000 a week or $50,000 a day. And like, I need to do less of this and more of talking to customers at Starbucks and riding around in a pickup truck with Joe the lawnmower to figure out what it is they need. And I just need to go build that. We don't need to go down this path. And so that was an early kind of decision that we made. And we just doubled down on that and stuck with it. And it served us well. I think there's some businesses that raising funding makes sense. Like there's no other way to do it, especially if you've kind of been around the block a couple of times. Maybe you've built and sold a couple of these things, and you kind of know a lot of what there is to know, and you can move a lot quicker with capital. But for me, I was a second-time founder, but I was a first-time tech founder. And so if you get, if I had raised $1 million, I just would have probably wasted it anyways. And so I got really lucky making that, epiphany or in the early days that was a waste of time for us. And now, fast forward 10 years later, there was probably a half dozen other Uber for lawn care startups that raised anywhere from $20-30 million to $100 million. And a lot of them didn't make it. Yeah. And so, we're in good shape.
That's good.
The cap table has 3 names on it, and we're profitable. So I'm very, very thankful that we made that decision that early on.
That is super cool. Yeah. And people I tell you, a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to raise capital, because so many people will think, oh, I'm going to get this good idea. I'm going to raise money. We're going to build it out. We're going to do it. And like you said, to get $25,000 or $50,000 is
100 meetings.
Yeah. There you go.
It was a full-time job. It would have been me as kind of like, yeah, there was 3 founders, but we were also like individual contributors wearing 5 different hats. So that would have come at the expense of code that I was writing,
Yeah.
blog posts that I was writing, journalists that I was talking to. And so for me, it just didn't make sense. Now the irony is, like, you look on your phone, and I guarantee you every app on the first page was funded by venture capital. So when it works, it works great. But that's a lot of times, a 1 in 100 shot. And so, and if that's the journey you want to sign up for, then have at it. But you just need to know, once you start down that path, it's really hard to reverse it.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you're going along now, been in business 10 years, what is the best piece of marketing advice you've had along the way?
I've started reading, I started reading every book I could get my hands on about old school copywriting. And and there was this book called My Life in Advertising by this guy named Claude Hopkins. And it's this 100-year-old book about copywriting. And it's so amazing. Like 98% of it still is like holds true to this day. And there was one thing that stuck to me in that book, dozens of lessons, but one thing that like I wrote on like the whiteboard was, he says, we will let the thousands decide what the millions will do. And that just stuck with me, that you just get a small number, you test, and then you invest. And that goes for product development. It goes for marketing. It goes for copywriting. It goes for tweaking things with the project. You just really have to look at everything like it's an experiment. Really, the whole business is one gigantic series of experiments. And it's like a lot of times in business and in life, we get this analysis paralysis where we don't take action on certain things because we don't know what the outcome is going to be. Whereas if we would just treat things like they were an experiment, let the hundreds decide what the thousands will do, it kind of helps you move quicker, and it kind of helps you get closer to what works, and it helps you get closer to what your customer wants. And so that stuck with me. And he probably wrote that 100 years ago, and it's still true today.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. And it's a great, I like your phrase of business is one giant experiment, because it really is. And when people get stuck in a lane and they're not ready to, read the results of the experiment and move a different direction, I think that's where a lot of them go off the cliff and don't make it.
That's right. Or even worse, they never do anything because they don't know what the outcome's going to be. And they don't take any action, and they just stick with the same way of doing things, and then wonder why the business is flat or going backwards. So yeah, if you can just kind of reduce every decision down to thinking like it's an experiment, we're going to reduce it down to the smallest way possible to learn as much as we can, I think can help with marketing and however you build your product.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's, with the advent of AI, everybody's talking about AI. Everybody's talking about how it's changing the game and everywhere in all businesses, really. What are some of the things that you're excited for coming into the future, whether it be AI, whether other advancements that really are going to be exciting for you guys at GreenPal?
At a personal level, just in my personal day-to-day like job duties, AI is kind of like, it's kind of like I have a Harvard grad on the left hand and a Stanford grad on the right hand side of me, and like they just sit there and like the only thing they want to do is just make me happy, and like I can just query both of them for help, and it's just amazing. It's incredibly powerful. So to me, that's cool. It's like no longer do you have to like get an attorney on the phone that makes $500 an hour to ask them a question about something. No longer do you have to, rope in the CPA at $350 an hour when you have a quick question about something. It's like, you have the world's like knowledge at your fingertips. And so at a conversational level. And so at a personal level, like in what I do every day, that's amazing. I think for us in implications in GreenPal, the low-hanging fruit that it's helping us with is taking a mess of unstructured data and helping it become understandable and structured and in a way that you can make sense of it. So I'll give you an example. For us, it's like, for years we've had this weird thing where you know, Columbus, Ohio will do 10 times the transactions that a Miami, Florida will. And we just cannot figure that out. And so a data scientist to kind of like pour over it, you know, that's a $500,000 a year person.
Yeah.
And we've just never been able to like make that jump. Well, now with these language models, we can dump in all of our database information. Okay, here's all of the lawn care vendors. Here's all of the customers. Here's all of the bids that were placed at the zip code level. Here's how fast it took them to hire. Here's when they showed up. Here's the people that booked another service. Let's make sense of this, and let's try to draw learnings from it as to why this market is outperforming this market.
Wow.
And what we need to do to make this market operate as good as this other market. And so for the first time, you know, $500,000, $1 million a year person. I mean, that kind of person would make $1 million a year at Uber. We have access to that now.
Yes.
And so that's very exciting. And like every time I turn around, it's getting better and better and better. And so for small businesses like ours, our team is only 40 people. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, what the next 5 years looks like for small, medium-sized businesses that have access to these super powerful tools that previously only the big boys did. So
yes.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. Yeah, that is super cool. And that the example of, I love the knowledge at the fingertips, because I'm going to tell you, it just, like you said, you just, I don't know. Oh, now I do. And we thought right. Google was good, right? We thought Google was, and it is a big step up from a book or going to a library to try to find it. But right. the way that the large language models have brought it to your fingertips is incredible.
It's incredible. It just summarizes all of the best of the open internet down to this one little thing you want to know. I mean, it's an incredible thing. And I think in the next 5 years, I think plumbers will make more than attorneys.
Yeah.
I think probably home cleaning services will make more than CPAs. It's going to be super interesting to see what happens to like really high-end knowledge workers, because that's all commoditized now. So it's kind of terrifying when you think about it.
Yeah. And you know, like anything, I think I was just reading an article about this. I think maybe even this morning. It was like, we all worry about jobs, right? But these things have happened. It was it was the train, it was the boat, it was whatever you want to call it, that people were going, oh, now what? But we all, it's all transition, and things change, and something new happens, and it's the way it goes. But the huge thing that you brought up, this unstructured data into understandable big data kind of analysis, that is so intriguing to me, because, you know, in a company like yours, and just say I work in e-commerce a fair amount, you know, when you're talking about thousands of transactions, like you said, different transactions, different products, different states, different environments.
A little's over here, a little's over here.
Yeah.
Some's over here in this silo. Some of it may be on damn Post-it notes. You can throw it all in and it'll make sense of it. And then for the first time, 99.9% of business owners didn't even mess with it, because it's just such a cognitive overhead of getting over that. For the first time, we can now make sense of these things.
Yeah. Making sense of that data and really turn it into actionable information.
That's right.
It's so cool.
What a time to be alive. Somebody said the other day, I think it might have even been the CEO of NVIDIA. He said, if you're going to retire, this ain't the decade to do it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's day one.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, you know, in GreenPal, you guys, let's talk a little bit about the company. Where are you guys at today? I mean, you are, I mean, well, it's wintertime in a lot of places, so it's probably a time when you guys get to do a little bit of changing, updating, and things like that. But what are some of the things you're excited for this year with GreenPal itself, and how it's working, and some new things that people are going to be able to experience?
Yeah, we are putting AI into the internal kind of brain of the platform to help make matching better. So the way it works now is if you are in Seattle, you put your address in, and a text message goes out to 30 or 40 different lawn care services within about 10 miles of you. They submit their pricing, and then you hire the one you want to work with. That's a lot better than doing it by hand and dialing for dollars. But what we want to do is we want to be able to say, okay, here's the 10 lawn care services in Seattle that want your business. And we know with 99% certain like probability that this is the best one for you based off price and reliability, and that they 100% will show up on Thursday. Because right now we can give a prediction in terms of past performance, but it's not always correct. And so we want to be able to crunch those numbers quicker in real time to give you a better, more accurate predictor on, okay, this is the best fit for you. Because it doesn't always work out. You'll hire a guy and his equipment will break, or you'll hire this person and they'll say, hey, the grass is a little taller than I thought, and they'll try to change the price. So it's like those places where the Uber-like magic breaks down. We think we can close that gap with AI.
That's very cool. Yeah. Yep. It's gonna be very interesting what you can do with that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's like we've stuck it out a decade. Now we've kind of turned a corner, and now we've got this big kind of fulcrum.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of like success in getting one of these things off the ground is just not giving up and staying alive, because like the next thing that helps you is it's just around the corner. You don't know when it's coming, but just stay alive, and because you'll catch a tailwind at some point.
Yeah. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Bryan, it's been awesome talking to you today, and I just want to make sure that we mention your site. It's yourgreenpal.com.
That's
right.
If
you haven't been there before, you can get there. You can find local people that can help get your yard taken care of, and other landscaping stuff as well. I don't want to say it's just yards. I was looking at it today, and very comprehensive. I mean, you can go to your state, you can look at popular cities, see who some of the more popular lawn care specialists are in your area. Just such good information, like you were saying earlier. Help provide the information for the people so they can make a good decision. Thanks so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me on, Damon. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to say, Usman, thanks for being here today. Appreciate you showing up. And everyone else that was listening, if you got into this late, go back and listen to Bryan from the beginning, because, hey, you won't get to listen to many people's story that successfully built a landscaping lawn care company, sold it, and turned around and decided to be a tech company founder, and have now scaled that successfully themselves there. Lots of great lessons to hear. So go back and listen to that from the beginning. We appreciate you out there, all you listeners out here every week. Bryan, hang out. We'll finish offline.